People ask us all the time, what do I do when I feel very strongly about something and my spouse feels very strongly about the same issue, but he feels very different about it from the way I feel? His feelings are far different from my feelings. What do we do in that kind of a situation? And we actually have 7 very practical steps that we take couples through to come up with something that is a win for both of you. A great analogy that we have is like on a sports team. If both of you are on the same team, let's say you're playing doubles tennis and you're both a team in doubles tennis and you lose, you lose. If your husband is on your team, he loses also. There's never a time when you're on a sports team where one of the sports members loses and you win, or you win and the other one loses. But in marriage, so often, couples set up their spouse as their adversary, and they don't realize that they're actually on the same team. And so if my husband walks away from an interaction with me feeling like he lost, I actually lost in that deal. And same goes the other way around. If I walk away feeling like I lost, my husband lost also. What we encourage couples to do in this kind of a scenario is to adopt a no-losers policy. And there's actually 7 steps to this policy. It's pretty simple. But the very first step is that you adopt a no-losers policy, and that may seem pretty obvious, but the reason it's important to make that step number 1 is in that time of conflict where both of you feel very differently about something, you want to remind yourselves, okay, step number 1 is we are going to work at this until we come up with a solution that both of us feel great about. And the reason we're doing that is we're on the same team. Step number 2 is heart talk. And what heart talk is that's where both of us have an opportunity to share what's on our heart. And we would actually take turns doing this. So first, let's say my husband shares why this issue is important to him, and he would share his feelings about that. And my role while he's sharing would just be to listen, to try and understand what he's saying, and to care about his feelings. After he's done sharing, then I have an opportunity to share my heart around that issue. So I'll share what's important to me about that, why it matters to me, how I feel about it, and then he can do the same thing that I did for him, and that is he can listen to what I'm saying, try and understand what I'm saying, and care about that. So that's the second step. The third step is pray. And the reason that this step is so important, there's actually 2 reasons it's important. One is if God cares about this situation, it's really important that we know what his opinion is on this or how he feels about it. And so if he does care about this and wants to reveal that to us, we want to be open to that. The second reason prayer is so important is that just in praying together, we are reestablishing unity in our relationship. We're setting our own agendas aside, and together we're asking for the Lord to unite us. So that's the third step. The fourth step is, that's a fun one actually, that's where we just brainstorm all kinds of options. And so the first 2 options usually are my way is number 1, my husband's way is number 2, or the other way around. My husband's way is number 1, mine is number 2. And then we'll just look at all kinds of other possibilities. And so we can just be really creative. We call that the green light session, and you just talk about all kinds of things that may be options. And you don't evaluate them, you just throw out all kinds of possibilities with that scenario specifically. Fifth step is, that's where you evaluate the options that you came up with. And so there may be a couple that stand out to you that when, let's say my husband throws out an option that kind of, that sounds like it might work, we'll talk about that. Now, what are the pros of that, the cons of that? We might need to do some research around some of the options, but that's where we just evaluate what sounds like it might be a possibility. And in talking about it, we may be surprised that we're coming up with something that is real different from what we originally thought might be the outcome. And so we're evaluating. After evaluating, if both of us feel like that might be a good option for us to try, then the 6th step is you pick one and you implement it. And so even if it takes 6 months to come up with an option that feels like a win for both of you, at the time that you pick something and you implement it, you just try it out and see how it works. Now the 7th step is really important, and that is one that a lot of people tend to miss. And that is, it's really important that at some point after you've made the decision, you reevaluate your decision that you've made together. And if it's not working for either of you at any point, you've got to be willing to start over again with step 1. And so step 7 is reevaluate and rework if necessary. You don't need to rework it or reevaluate it if it's working for you, but if at any point the solution you came up with together isn't working for either of you, let's say you end up moving to Denver and 3 months into the deal, it's just the worst experience of your life, at that point, You just share with your spouse, you know what, this is just not working for me, and it's important for your spouse to recognize that your feelings matter, and you'll go back to step 1 and start with a no losers policy. We're going to come up with something that's a win-win for both of us. And you go through the 7 steps again. So those 7 steps you can use with this situation or many other situations. The no losers policy is just so awesome when couples adopt that, because what it says is, the husband is saying to the wife, you are important to me. The wife is saying to the husband, you are important to me. And unless both of us feel great about the decisions we make, we're not going to come up with a decision. And your feelings cannot be compromised. My feelings can't be compromised. Together, we're going to come up with, in our marriage, we're going to come up with win-wins as often as possible. And just adopting that policy will make a huge difference in your relationship.